Hello everyone and welcome back to Biology with Mrs. Evans. Today's video is going to be on chemical reactions. Chemical reactions are the process that change one set of compounds or elements into another set of compound or elements. I wrote this specific chemical equation on the board last week and I asked you if you knew what the items here on the left were called and the items here on the right. And I wanted to use this chemical equation in the video because it will help us with our understanding about what a chemical reaction is and the vocabulary associated with chemical reactions. So a chemical reaction can be written as you see here. This is basically a chemical equation for the reaction for photosynthesis. It can be written two ways. All right, one is you see it as it is written here. All right, and you can add a plus light, means that in order for photosynthesis to occur, light must be present. Or it could also be written as light above the arrow. And what that means is that this chemical equation takes place in the presence of light. So without light, this chemical reaction would not occur. So I didn't write light because I want to talk about that it can be written of one of two ways. So it can be added over here on the left as plus light, or it can be written as I have it here now on the screen. So I asked you guys if you knew what these were called, and most of you didn't. That's okay, because that's what the purpose of this video is for. So everything to the left of this arrow are what we call reactants. Reactants are what are going to enter in to the chemical reaction. Everything to the right, these guys over here, are what we call products. Those are what are being produced as a result of the chemical reaction. So chemical reactions, when they take place, they are going to break bonds and they are going to form new bonds. So I'm going to advance to the next slide so we can talk about that again. So again, reactants, products, I have it here so you can copy it down in your notes. Again, reactants, everything here to the left of the arrow are called reactants. Those are the items that are going to enter in to the chemical reaction. Everything to the right of the arrow are called products. So if you notice, hydrogen gas here, chlorine gas here, what's happening is the bond between the hydrogen gas is going to be broken, as well as the bond between the chlorine gas is going to be broken, and as a result, the bond between hydrogen and chlorine is now going to be formed, creating hydrochloric acid. And one of the things, key things for biology is conservation of mass. So you'll notice that you have two hydrogen atoms on the left side, two chlorines on the left side, and then when you get over here to the products, this two, remember, means two molecules, so you still have two hydrogen and you still have two chlorine molecules, so conservation of mass. So chemical reactions, there are two types of chemical reactions, one that requires heat to be added and one that basically gives off heat. So I'm going to advance to the next slide so we can talk about it. So in order for a reaction to occur, so most of the endothermic reactions, reactions that require heat, need a substantial amount of activation energy. Exothermic reactions, they can happen on their own, but most chemical reactions are going to require activation energy. And activation energy is the energy needed to start basically a chemical reaction, or the energy needed for a chemical reaction to occur. So again, endothermic reactions require a lot more activation energy than what an exothermic reaction. So the two type of reactions that I mentioned. Endothermic, so prefixes and suffixes. So endo means into and therm means heat. So endothermic reactions require heat to be added in order for them to occur. And then exothermic, exo means out of or exit, and then thermo means heat. So exothermic reactions are reactions that are going to give off heat, basically. And you're going to talk about that a lot in chemistry, so I'm not going to go into a lot of detail because you really don't need that much detail for our level of biology. So energy absorbing reactions, again, endothermic, exothermic reactions, reactions that are going to give off heat. And again, remember I said endothermic reactions require a lot more activation energy. This is what you see right here compared to exothermic reactions. They don't require as much energy to be added. That brings me to enzymes. So enzymes are a big deal in biology, and we're going to talk a lot about them within the next couple of videos. But for this video, I'm just going to keep it short because we are going to go into a lot more detail later in the next couple of units, next couple of videos. So enzymes are what we call a biological catalyst. A catalyst is a molecule that speeds up a chemical reaction because it lowers the activation energy for a reaction to occur. So you notice over here on the right, the diagram, this blue line is a chemical reaction that would take place, and notice that it requires this much activation energy. As soon as you add an enzyme, notice that the activation energy is much lower. So enzymes are a biological catalyst that are going to speed up a chemical reaction because it's going to lower the activation energy. So there are two types of enzymes. Anabolic enzymes. Anabolic enzymes are enzymes that combine substances to make larger substances. So an example of an enzyme like that in your body is DNA polymerase. And we're going to talk a lot about that when we get into DNA. DNA polymerase is what's going to be used to make copies of your DNA. So it's going to add basically the nucleotides together and create this long chain of DNA. Whereas a catabolic enzyme is an enzyme that breaks down larger substances into smaller substances. An example of a catabolic enzyme in your body and every living organism would be catalase. Catalase is an enzyme that is going to break down hydrogen peroxide. If you've ever gotten cut and you've poured hydrogen peroxide on that, you've seen basically catalase at work. Catalase is going to break down hydrogen peroxide because it is a harmful substance to us if it builds up in our bodies. So it's going to break down hydrogen peroxide to the non-harmful substances, and it's going to break it down into oxygen gas, that's the bubbles that you see, and then water. So two types of enzymes that you need to know: anabolic, catabolic enzymes. A way that you can remember these, this is what I came up with to help me. If you've ever had cats, all right, they can be destructive. They like to tear things apart. If you came to my house, you'd see all the damage that they have done. But anyway, that's how I remember catabolic. Catabolic are going to break things down into smaller pieces. My cats are great at that. Anabolic, just think of an anvil building up larger molecules. And again, we're going to talk about enzymes a lot in the next couple of videos, in the next couple of units, so I'm not going to go into a lot of detail.